All right, guys and gals, welcome to, I guess this is BTZ's pad. Super special guest and friend here, Andy Park, the Director of Visual Development at Marvel Studios.
You got it.
Did I get that right?
You got it right.
So, what's amazing, you might not know all the work he's done, but really, can you tell people kind of what it is you do and explain it to them?
Yeah, I'm the director of visual development.
That's what I said. That's pretty good. Thanks.
But our Marvel has an in-house group of artists. It was actually created right at the tail end of the first Captain America.
Oh, okay.
Created.
The actual team.
The team.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Ryan Meinerding, Charlie Wen. They worked on the previous movies like Iron Man and Captain America, Thor, and then Marvel decided it's in their interest to create an in-house group of artists, knowing that there's going to be movies that are all connected for years to come. So I was the first one that they hired in that team, and the visual development team, our job is to create the heroes, the characters, the heroes, the villains, to design them. That's our main job, is to design them. And as director of visual development, I lead a team of artists on several of our films. Some of the films I led are like Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2, Thor Ragnarok, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, and no, I can't say. And I can't say what I'm working on now. But it's something that is pretty unique to Marvel Studios. I think they truly value the artistry, the design work that goes into creating these characters. So it's something I definitely appreciate.
Okay, well, enough about you. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about you. No. We're gonna talk about Captain Marvel. What I find interesting is a lot of people don't realize. Captain Marvel was intended to potentially appear in Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
did Joss Whedon
yes.
actually originally want her in that movie?
Yeah, the first time I designed her was on Age of Ultron.
Oh, so you have sketches. Are any of those in this book?
It is. Because the very end tag, or not the end tag, the very last scene when Captain America and Black Widow come out, and he almost says, Avengers, and then you see the new Avengers cast come down. She was originally supposed to, I think, you see Wanda kind of float down. I think that was supposed to be Captain Marvel.
Really?
But and I remember when they gave me that, or when I was designing her, I was kind of like, oh, that's a weird way to introduce a character out of nowhere. Obviously, and see this iconic Captain Marvel float down, and you're like, who's that? So I'm glad. I think Kevin Feige was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. I think something like that. But the first time I tackled her design was on Age of Ultron.
But you're saying in this book you actually have some of those sketches? Can you show me? Just out of curiosity?
Where is it?
There's two. There's the VAERS stuff in the front, and then there's the Captain Marvel stuff back here.
Okay, let's see. So these right here.
Oh, these ones? Okay, cool.
So I was doing, very much the classic costume.
Had the sash on it.
The sash, gave her the leather jacket. Of course, at that time there's no cast, so I just did some generic.
But
face.
she looks very. But this is the original. She looks very Brie Larson. Did you adjust that when you found out? Okay.
And so this was essentially the face that I did.
That looks more like Britney Spears. It does.
Oh, not intentional. No actress in mind, but and then eventually I put it. For this movie, put Brie's likeness on.
Very cool. So in the movie Captain Marvel, the other thing about it, right? So you have Age of Ultron, but then you also had to design her for Endgame, which shot before the actual Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's a unique situation. So because they were gonna shoot Infinity War, Endgame back to back, so it's essentially like one movie they were shooting, and they knew they were gonna have Captain Marvel in that movie follow up to Captain Marvel. So they shot her scenes in Avengers before her own movie. So I was doing the designs essentially for the Russo brothers initially. I was doing a lot of the initial stabs at her design based on the comic book look, was done for them.
So here's the thing, people that have seen the movie, there is a mid-roll credit scene that show Captain Marvel with a slightly different suit. Mm-hmm. Everyone that's watching this already knows this. You're not giving any spoilers away, okay? Yeah. So I noticed that her shoulder pads were more gold like this. They're the gold accents were a little more filled out. Mm-hmm. I know you're smiling inside. I can see it in your eyes. You're like,
what are you talking about?
So my question was, because you had the design for her in Endgame, we saw that mid-roll credit scene, did you have to work backwards to kind of come up with an even more stripped down version of her for Captain Marvel? Hey, we need to almost simplify her-ish to a certain degree?
I can't talk about it.
Next question.
Well, yeah, I can't talk about
Okay, how about
the
this?
thinking behind Avengers
Because
design.
you're saying there's stuff that she talks about that happens that leads to that design.
Wait, what?
So you can't talk about the Endgame design just because you can't talk about it.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
Like if I said, why is there more gold on her?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's the kind of question I can't answer. You should know that. No.
I thought we were friends. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's get back to the actual Captain Marvel costume design, which looked amazing. One of the things that people may not know is you've really kind of been the primary designer for a lot of the female characters in the Marvel Universe, MCU, right? Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Hela, Nebula,
Wasp.
right?
Yeah.
Right, Wasp as
Yeah,
well, first co-lead. So people might not know that you have a lot of comic book roots, right? You did Tomb Raider, and I remember at the time before you had tackled Tomb Raider the comic, she was basically like very voluptuous, very not realistic.
Yes.
And you kind of
Top
worked
heavy.
with the proportion. You got the proportions a little more in check.
Yes.
And so, do you think a lot of that learning process kind of helped inform you with how you how you tackle these female outfits for MCU as well?
Yeah, I think it's just interesting how that's happened throughout my career. Like I started off working for Rob Liefeld, and the first comic book that I got was a female character, and for his Extreme Studios, that was his company. I primarily drew female characters, and then eventually for Mark Silvestri's Top Cow, I drew Tomb Raider. And yeah, up to that point, she was only a video game icon.
Yeah.
And anytime she was drawn, it was always very gratuitous, over the top, not realistic. When I got onto the book, Dan Jurgens was the writer, and I wanted to bring somewhat of a reality to it. I wanted to flesh her out, so to speak, but in a respectful way.
Yeah.
I wanted to make her realistic. So I gave her actual like muscles, a little bit more muscular for all the stuff that she does. I think I toned down certain assets, but yeah, I think my idea is I wanted to bring a respect, a reality, and I think that is exactly what I do for the MCU, for Marvel Studios, when I design any character, male or female, but especially when I design the female characters. I'm always trying to, first we look at the comic book and how they've been illustrated in the past by many amazing comic book artists. But a lot of times, they were created back decades ago, and comic books was a medium mainly for young adolescent boys, drawn by men. So, it always tended to be a little bit more like unrealistic in what they're wearing. Too much, it's not very practical. So, like Gamora, the way I think one of her costumes traditionally was almost like that Borat swimsuit that she has, right? So,
the V
yeah. So obviously when I was designing her, I was like, okay, we're not gonna do that, but but how do you like do things that allude to those looks but be respectful, right? So even Captain Marvel, one of her iterations, I think as Miss Marvel, is very much like a swimsuit, or the one that has just a midriff. She's covered from the top, but it's just a midriff showing, and then just like a bikini bottom. So we're not going to do that. So Jamie McKelvey actually did a redesign with Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Yeah, great run too.
Oh yeah,
which
awesome.
like really reinvigorated and kind of defined Captain Marvel the character, which is what the movie kind of pulled from as well.
Totally. Essentially, that's what we were taking, and so I was doing designs based on that. We did a lot of other takes besides just that take, but I'm trying to taking that amazing design. But the other thing about comics is usually the designs are always essentially, as a comic book artist, you just draw a naked man or naked woman, and then you draw cut lines into the body, and maybe a cape or something, or just one little accoutrement, because of redrawability. You have to redraw it over and over, panel to panel. So it's going to be too hard to do like jackets and things with a lot of wrinkles. Yeah, right. So they simplify it so it does look like a naked body just painted. So of course, for the MCU, I'm going to take that look and bring a reality to the story we're trying to tell. So so I'm trying to interpret and bring our own new ideas to the suit, while being respectful to the source material.
When you saw Jamie McKelvey's design, was there anything that kind of stuck out to you that you're like, I really want to keep these types of lines? Because right? It's like you're really bringing it to life. You're modernizing it. You're making it feel grounded.
Yeah.
But what are things that stuck out to you in that design?
I think that design was really great because it's usually when we're designing characters, we're taking looks that was decades ago. That even designed like in the 60s or 70s or 80s. This one was designed 2012. So it's already very palatable, it's very modern, it's already respectful. So, in that way, it was more about the specifics of the story that we're trying to tell. So in the Captain Marvel movie, it's more about her being a Kree soldier. So of course it has those connotations of Air Force, that kind of thing in the design. But I'm trying to create an alien suit that she's, the elite. She's like, one of those elite soldiers, that goes into like those deep missions, and it can withstand the rigors of space. So it's not just a skin tight bodysuit,
Yeah.
It does have an armored feel to it, So even the chest plate down to like the armor shoulder pieces, I'm bringing more like an armored feel to it, but at the same time not feeling bulky. Mm-hmm. It still wanted to be, form fitting and aesthetically pleasing, but to kind of have a little bit of a more armored feel to it.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things also, right? Everyone talked about it. Everyone wanted to see it, right? You have the helmet that shows off like her mohawk or her hair pulled up. About how was that kind of coming together with that idea or concept? And you kind of had to ground it again, like in reality, because in the comic books we just see it. We don't see how it forms together, what really happens. So, what was kind of some of the logic behind it, incorporating it and then like bringing it to life?
Yeah, I was so happy because like whenever designing these characters, for me the characters I love to design more are the more comic booky ones. That's why like Hela was so fun because she's just so awesome. Kirby design, and it looks very like unrealistic and impractical, but those are the ones that are more fun. So the characters that have a helmet, those are really fun. I love designing because it's so. That's what when we think of a traditional comic book character, they always have a helmet,
Their face is covered.
Yeah, so for identity.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's more of a soldier kind of, so she can go into space and go into battle. So I was happy. I think there was a question in the beginning whether are we going to do a helmet. In the comics, she's got her mohawk, her hair coming out of it.
Yeah.
So it looks really cool. I think I read an interview that Joe Quesada, it was his idea. And then Jamie McKelvey was the one who designed it. But because we're always trying to bring a reality, the question was, is that too ridiculous? It looks awesome as in the comic, but can you believe that her hair would be sticking out of this? Like, how does it form onto there? But for me, I was like, it's an alien helmet.
That's the easy. Hey, it's alien technology.
Exactly, and very much like how Star-Lord's helmet kind of forms.
Yeah.
Why can't alien technology like grab her hair and let it stand up?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. But there was some early takes where they're like, oh, maybe it's too ridiculous. So let's do just more like fins,
like metal, this metal.
Yeah, metal fins. Kind of like Yandu.
Yeah.
But as I'm doing those metal fins, I'm like, oh please no, like
everyone's gonna be like, hey, that looks like Yandu.
Yeah, they'll say that, and they'll just be like, oh, we want to see the mohawk. We know what the fans want, and what I'm a fan first and foremost.
Yep.
So I wanted to see that hair come out of there. So I was so happy that we were able to do that design, and then trying to make it into a reality is a whole different ball of wax.
Are there any things or details that people may not notice in the costume that you kind of put in there, small things, or just maybe even put a little signature thing like, I'm just going to put this little aspect or detail or shape or something? Are there things like in the costume that people may not notice because we don't necessarily always get to see it super up close?
Yep. I think in designing these costumes, a lot of times you're playing with themes and things that the audience might not necessarily pick up on. But for me, like she's all about strength, So when it comes to shapes, the strongest shape is like a triangle, right? It's the most balanced, it's very strong. And the fact that she's got the star, essentially the facets of a star are a triangle, right?
Oh, looky. Mm-hmm. Wait, you think about this? I wonder why you're the director.
I know. Development. Yeah, these are like, concept theories we think about. Mm-hmm. It might not be obvious, but it helps to solidify a theme. So if you look throughout the costume, it's one of those like, you get those visual problems. How many squares do you see?
Yeah.
How many can you count? Throughout her suit, there's essentially like triangles everywhere. Triangles that point to her star, actual little triangles embedded,
like
in
on
her
the
armor,
ribs here.
and the ribs. But every line it's essentially like a lot of it's pointing towards the star, and a lot of the shapes make a triangle shape to kind of reinforce the theme of strength.
That's cool. Any others kind of subtle things that I may not know about? I mean, I was going to ask you about the gold shoulder pads on the Endgame costume in the mid-credit scene, but I was told not to ask about that.
What gold are you talking
What
about?
are you talking about?
What if
I
people haven't seen it
Well,
yet?
that's their problem. If it's made as much money as it has so far, they probably have seen it.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they're
that's
watching
true.
this, they've probably seen
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I cannot talk about that.
No, we're not going to talk about that. Any other details kind of that stand out here? What about maybe what's some of the favorite stuff that you enjoyed about working on the process? I know you go on set sometimes.
Well,
right?
actually, can I go back to that?
Yeah. Please.
Another interesting, or to me, it's interesting, because as I was designing StarForce, the StarForce look, her StarForce look as Veers, I was doing costumes thinking that at the end of the movie she would change into her classic red, gold, and blue costume. But as we were doing that, the idea came about, what if it's just their technology can change colors, in their suits. So as StarForce, when they go on missions, they can essentially camouflage. So from there, that's how that whole idea came about. But if you look closely, which I don't know if people notice, if you look at her StarForce costume versus her hero costume, there are differences beyond just
the color swap, right?
Yeah, I think the main thing is in the StarForce costume, you have the star and you have these thin little silver metal pieces that go up. But in her hero costume, there's two big stripes.
Way more bold.
The other things is she loses her side thigh armor that she has in her StarForce, and she's got these like stripes that are below her hip piece. But the main thing I was thinking with the star and the stripes is almost like she's earning her stripes. She's like upgrading her rank. From lieutenant to, she's captain.
She's the captain.
Yeah, and also I wanted to simplify the look. So if you look at the Veers StarForce, there's a lot more green or teal. It's teal, silver everywhere, and it's not just a matter of the teal turned to red. A lot of it either disappears or simplifies. So in her hero costume, you really see the gold. It really stands out, and really it's more focused.
Your eyes.
Rather than like chattering everywhere, gold everywhere. But there is gold everywhere, but it's really like focused on her star, and right up there, so you see her face.
So there's the part where she changes the costumes and the different colors.
Yeah.
Was the neon costume your idea or someone else's? Just like, let's just get crazy and put like a crazy neon Tron thingy in there.
They went crazy. I did a lot of different color takes.
Yeah.
And I did do one that kind of reminded me of it. It wasn't full on neon, but it was like I did this one painting for costumes because they wanted to know which pieces were hard pieces, which parts are soft. So I did this to make it obvious. I made it like very garish colors. It's not in the book, but
like so you could really see the kind of the detail lines, and it almost kind of outlines the suit.
Just to like pinpoint like which area is what. But yeah, I never did the neon one. But that was awesome that they did that. I was like, that's cool. That's funny.
That is super cool. Other things kind of with all the design and Captain Marvel stuff, like we were kind of talking a little bit about you visiting on set. Do you have any stories from Captain Marvel, like your on-set visit that was fun?
I think the other part of my job that I love is I get to work with the costume designer, and Sonia Hayes was the costume designer, and then the specialty costumer, which is Russ Schinkel, and he works over at he owns Film Illusions. So it's a collaboration. So he does all the hard pieces, the helmet, and then Sonia Hayes and her amazing costumer, they do the soft pieces in collaboration, making this costume. And I'm there to kind of to see, to make have some, to give them some notes, to try. I'm there to since I did the design, is to help keep the spirit and the integrity of that initial design, because it's challenging.
Basically, you're like, I worked so many hours on this. You need to replicate my awesome design. Don't mess with it.
No, I mean they do
they do
amazing work, and there has to be compromises because it's one thing to do a painting, but for them, they have to make this thing like workable that an actor can actually. So I think the fun part of my job is seeing it come to life, and then when I go to fittings with Brie, and we all get to see it. I go to multiple fittings. You see it, early on where it's just really rough and you're a little
even loose, kind of, right?
Yeah, still, and then so there's a lot of problem areas. So we kind of have to figure out. Doing the helmets was fun, like doing the fittings with her to kind of see, how it fits. Our in-house 3D modeler Adam Ross, he's the one who took the 3D scan of Brie, and then based on my concept, and then I'd art direct him and how to get this to look right.
So yeah, like take your concept, take her 3D scan, and build something physical for that.
It's really hard because helmets are hard because usually our heads are when you do a drawing, usually it's you can cheat a little bit and do like 8 heads tall.
And to make it looks like also the fact that this looks like it's almost like painted on their skin, where a
That's
real
hard.
helmet is like thick textured stuff.
Yeah, so it's very quickly you can go to that like bobblehead if you make it too big.
Yeah.
Because if you make it too tight, then the actors don't like that. It's uncomfortable and it's claustrophobic. But you have to get it tight in order for it to look good. So I think that part of the process is really fun for me, just to be able to see the design come to life on an actress like Brie, and she's amazing. And then when you see it finally on screen, you're just like, whoa, look at that. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, even if people follow you on social media, I love how you geek out about when you see your concepts being not only on the movie, but then like being adapted by like Hot Toys or such, right? When you see like this is an action figure based literally on like the concept and the design you did.
Yeah, that's another perk.
Too.
Yep, the Hot Toys, the statues, the little Funko dolls, and then cosplayers. When I go to Comic Cons, and then you see the cosplayers, and cosplayers is like their love letter to the things the characters that they love, and to see the excitement. And when I get to meet them, and it's really like just contagious, the excitement and just the joy that they have. It's really fun.
There's a lot of fandom, and I think we've talked about this jokingly before. Everyone wants to find out everything possible about these movies before the movies come out. And
Me too.
Remember there was a shot of Brie. It was like a long telephoto lens.
Oh no!
It was her in basically a rough version of her Kree outfit, and everyone freaked out on the internet. And so, this is your opportunity to tell people maybe a message to them about like remain calm. But what would you like to tell people that they jump to all these conclusions right away because they just want to absorb as much info as they want?
Yeah, it's tough. Fandom is a double-edged sword, right? Like there's amazing stuff, but there's also like negative stuff. But it's hard because when you get those spy shots, they're not meant to be. Those weren't done by Marvel Studios. Those pictures, right? So they're always going to be unflattering for the most part, right? And then people just freak out. And of course, that one was like, "Why is she green?"
But those are people that don't even whether she was green or not, they don't even know the storyline.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. But I would just say Here,
tell them in the camera. Right? Tell them in the camera right here.
It's gonna be okay. Marvel Studios has done like 21 films now. They've done they have a pretty good track record so far. So Kevin Feige and all the people there, they know what they're doing. So
trust the process.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So yeah, that stuff makes us sad when we see the spy shots. We're like, oh man, because we want to be the ones to reveal it to the world, not spy shots.
People are so obsessed. You're like, I'm not saying you're like, but people are so obsessed about like Apple and Samsung. You guys are on that level where anyone will do anything to get any nugget about the gold uniform in Avengers Endgame.
What is this gold? What are you talking about?
All right, Andy. Well, thanks so much for just telling us everything you could and couldn't, and just appreciate your time. It's amazing work with Captain Marvel, and can't wait to see what he does next.
I can't wait either.
He knows. I know, but I'm not going to say anything.
No, he doesn't know.